Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're going to be replacing the factory radio on this 2006 Toyota Prius. Now in this install we're going to show you how to remove the factory radio. We'll head over to the bench to show you the parts that we need for the install, including the dash kit and the wiring harness, and we'll come back here and get everything reinstalled. Let's get started. At this point of time, what we need to do is go ahead and get our factory radio removed. Now, it's always a good idea before you do so to remove any of the discs that may be left in the CD drive of that factory radio, because once removed, they're impossible to remove later on. Now, also in our install, we need to retain our factory steering wheel volume controls located here with the new radio that we're installing. Now, the factory screen that sits up and above the factory radio, this guy has to stay put. It displays important hybrid information. We can't just remove it. In order for us to get the factory radio on out, there are a couple of panels that surround this radio, including panels above the steering column, below the steering column, and on each side of the radio that have to be pulled on out. Now, the first thing we need to do to remove the radio is first unsnap the panel vent on the driver's side, left side of the steering wheel. Ours is already missing. There's no way for us to remove it, unfortunately. So you'll see that there's two clips there at the bottom. Just give it a tug and it should come on out. Two clips at the top and two at the bottom. It usually pulls the vent out with it, but again, our trim is missing, so we're just going to pull our vent out as is. Now, once that trim panel is up and out of the way, it's now going to give us access to remove this lower knee buster panel below the steering column. Now, this knee buster panel is held on with a few screws that we need to remove as well. There's two Phillips screws. Let's go ahead and remove those two screws. Now, once those two screws have been removed, we can go ahead and unsnap the panel underneath the steering column. Once that is out of the way, it can just hang there. We can unsnap the upper panel as well. So we're back over on this side here. Now we'll need to pop out the vent. Okay, just like so. Has two clips there at the bottom. Clip, and then two clips up top here. We need to do the same on this side. Next, let's go ahead and remove the two screws up underneath the pocket. Those need to come out so the pocket can come out. Once screws are removed, go ahead and give it a tug. It should unsnap from the panel. Next, let's go ahead and remove the two 10mm bolts holding in the center display using a 10mm socket. We can get to our radio here. Now, we want to ensure that your discs are all out. If you haven't checked, go ahead and do so, because once this is out, it's nearly impossible to get them removed later. There's two more down below to remove. All right, now finally, we can go ahead and remove the radio. I get my hand back behind and give it a tug. And the whole thing comes on out, and you'll need to disconnect all your harnesses. Okay, so with the radio removed, got all our harnesses disconnected here. At this point in time, let's head over to the bench and show you the parts that we're going to need for our install. Right, so here at the bench, now the parts that we're going to need for the install, first and foremost, is the radio that we've chosen to go with. This is the JoyBring doubled-in touchscreen head unit. This features both Apple Carplay, Android Auto, Bluetooth, aux, USB, basically all those features without the brand name radio. We've actually unboxed one of these radios here on the channel, so if you want to see this radio more in detail, we'll go ahead and link that video down in the description for you. Now, to accommodate the radio in the dash, we need this doubled-in dash kit. It's the Metro 95-8240B for single and doubled-in aftermarket radios. Now, for the wiring part, we need the Metro 70-1761 harness adapter for non-JBL vehicles. And finally, since we have steering wheel volume controls, we need the Metra 70-8114. This allows you to retain the factory aux and provides a harness plug here to integrate Metra's Axxess ASWC1. It's a plug-and-play harness, and it's really nice because it comes pre-pinned. You don't have to do any manual wiring. We're going to pair this with the Axxess ASWC1. It's more expensive, but it's going to retain the steering wheel controls in our vehicle. So what we're going to do at this point of time is grab our harness adapter, the steering wheel control harness adapter, as well as the harness that came with our aftermarket radio, and together we're going to get everything soldered up. Okay, so what we've done is we prepared our harness adapter. We have the Metra harness adapter and our radio harness. And what we've done is stripped both ends, and we've loaded up our harness with some heat shrink. Because after we solder these connections up, we're going to move the heat shrink up into those connections, and we're going to shrink them down with a heat gun. Now, obviously, if you don't know how to solder or don't have the means to do so, you can use butt connectors or even better, crimp caps to make your wiring connections. Today, we're going to be matching color for color as we make those connections using our soldering iron. Alright, so we finished assembling our wiring harness adapter here. We soldered up those connections matching color for color. Those connections have now cooled. We've also tied in the power and ground from our steering wheel control harness, the red and the black, into our main harness, red and black wire. You can see that we've soldered in parallel there. Then once those connections fully cool, what we're going to do at this point of time is move the heat shrink that we've preloaded on our harness adapter up and over those connections, and we'll shrink it down. With our harness adapter all done and soldered up here, what we're going to do at this point of time is loom our harness with a little bit of Tessa tape, just give it a little bit more protection and professional look in the dash. Alright, so we went ahead and finished preparing our wiring harness here. We got everything Tessa taped and zip tied, looks nice and clean. We also prepared our steering wheel control adapter. That's the output from the ASWC1 for our radio. And what we've done here is connected that 3.5mm jack to our radio steering wheel control input. Now in this case we did have to use an adapter because this doesn't have a traditional wired remote input. It has key 1, key 2, so we had to use the included adapter with our unit. This is the ASWC1. We'll go ahead and program this within the vehicle once we're ready to go. Now, the next thing that we need to talk about is this little resistor that was included within our dash kit. There are a pair of wires within our main wiring harness at the radio that's not included within our harness itself. We have to manually wire this back behind the radio and essentially here connect this resistor between two wires. It's a data signal wire, and this resistor will allow you to continue to use the heating and air controls that would otherwise not function correctly if we did not install this. So what we're going to do is we'll head over to the car and show you where this included resistor with our dash kit needs to be connected within the vehicle. So let's talk about this resistor, pins 11 and 12. So we grab this harness here. This is our 20-pin harness. And pins 11 and 12 are our white and our pink ones here. And as you can see here, we went ahead and just stripped the wire back. We didn't cut the wire. We just stripped it back, exposing the copper metal strands. Then we grabbed our resistor and twisted it around just like it shows in the diagram. What we're going to do next is grab our soldering iron and go ahead and solder on those leads. Then we'll just go ahead and wrap both connections in electrical tape. Then we'll reloom both these wires together just so it's all protected and won't ground anywhere here in the dash. So that's what we'll need to do in this application, is go ahead and solder in. These other three are steering wheel control wires that will be hooking up for use the buttons on the steering wheel with the new radio. Now we don't have to manually tap into these because the Metra harness that we purchased, the 8114 harness, plugs right into this guy. So that's all we have to do manually here inside the dash. Let's finish up our harness, get everything reinstalled. Okay, so we're here back at the bench. Now what we need to do is assemble our dash kit up and around our aftermarket radio. Comes with the side bracket adapters and a nice painted finished dash bezel. Now these two pieces will connect to our aftermarket radio and should allow us to mount this in the factory location. Now, as for our aftermarket radio, once we get it mounted, this bezel will fit into place. It doesn't actually connect, but it uses these little side clips. We install these side clips onto the bezel and it just simply snaps into place. So let's go ahead and get this mounted up to our aftermarket radio. And just like that, we went ahead and got our dash brackets all assembled to our new aftermarket radio here using the hardware supplied both by the radio and by the dash kit. Now you'll notice here that we went ahead and transferred over from the factory radio the dash pocket. Now we accommodated that in the aftermarket dash kit just simply by using the hardware supplied. So let's go ahead and head back to the car to get this installed.
Okay, so we're back here in the car. It's time to start getting everything reinstalled. Just like that. Okie dokie. Go ahead and tuck this back here into the dash. Connect our antenna and our aux input. Let's go ahead and make a final test here.
Sure, safe and consistent results with every visit.
Great, steering wheel controls work. Now the nice thing with the ASWC1, it's self-programming. So it'll program and get it all set up itself. We also have other recommendations for steering wheel control adapters, which we can put in the description. Now follow the instructions that are suggested to go to once you go to wire it in the vehicle. You go to ASWC1's website, put in your vehicle fit guide, and it'll actually show you exactly what to do. Now, because this is a Prius, and if you're watching this video, you're probably working on a Prius, we'll throw that up on the video screen for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the rest of our screws in.
Alright, so we are good to go. Everything seems to be working great. Even our steering wheel volume controls are functioning correctly with our new aftermarket radio. That's it. Like we said before, if you want any of these parts that we use, we'll link them down in the description of the video for you. Also, if you want to see how we did a backup camera on this Toyota Prius, we'll link that video down in the description, which again walks you through step by step on how to add one to your new aftermarket radio. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to hit the like button if you like what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time, and we will see you in the next video.